Welcome to the Environmental Training Program, for which is part of the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission's Sunol Valley Water Treatment Plant Ozonation Facility Project. First, we'll talk about environmental compliance staff. My name is Andrew Motto, and I'm the environmental inspector and biologist for this project, along with JT Mates-Mushin, environmental compliance manager. We welcome you to this training and look forward to working together on this project. Our contact information is listed here and will also be at the end of the presentation. Here at the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission, we take environmental compliance seriously, and you are responsible for understanding the requirements discussed in this training to ensure that the project will be conducted in compliance with all local, state, and federal requirements. Non-compliant activities can have serious consequences, such as delays or shutdowns, and even individuals being held accountable for their actions. Violations may result in serious penalties and enforcement actions. So remember, compliance is all of our responsibility. The project objectives are to reduce the concentration of taste and odor-causing compounds in the plant's raw water, provide additional disinfection with ozone, improve treatment reliability, provide additional control of chlorinated disinfection byproducts, and provide oxidation of emerging contaminants and color removal. So let's review some of the environmental requirements. All personnel must be trained, stay in designated work areas, not park off paved roads, and observe all signs, flagging, and fencing, and comply with site speed limits, which is 15 miles per hour on unpaved roads. All personnel must place garbage in the appropriate containers to keep the site clean. Do not feed or attract wildlife. Don't bring any pets or firearms. Smoking is only allowed in designated areas or in vehicles. And be sure to discard matches and cigarette butts appropriately, as well as maintain spill kits and fire extinguishers in designated areas on site. So, specialty environmental monitors will be required on this project to protect biological and paleontological resources. Archaeological and Native American monitors are not anticipated unless cultural resources are discovered. During ground disturbing excavation activities, be on the lookout for cultural and/or paleontological resources. Stay tuned for additional biological and cultural resource information. An EI or biologist will be required to be present during excavation. So do not start work until required personnel are on site and ready for work to begin. Stormwater inspections are required daily by the qualified SWIP practitioner, and these reports will be provided weekly to the SFPUC. Please review the alert sheet, which is available for your review in the construction trailer. There are no historic structures in our project area. However, you do need to use additional precaution when working near existing facilities. Report any accidental damage immediately. Cultural resources are unique and irreplaceable. Therefore, there are severe penalties related to the unauthorized or deliberate disturbance to cultural resources. We need your help and support to protect these resources if found on site. We will go over the protocols if you find a potential cultural resource. So a substantial portion of the project is situated on top of alluvial and fluvial deposits. The project will excavate in native soil that are highly sensitive for paleontological resources. That means you may find a fossil, which is an ancient remain or impression of petrified bone, shell, or other animal or plant parts. A paleontological monitor will be present during excavation in these sensitive soils. If you discover any artifacts, bones, soil deposits, or fossils while excavating anywhere on the project site, implement the required protocol, which is to stop work immediately and notify the EI or paleontological monitor. Do not move or collect the item. Work with the monitor or EI to set up a work buffer around the sensitive area, and they will let you know when the area is cleared for work in that area again. Best management practices, or BMPs, for stormwater are mandated by the State Water Resource Control Board. They include preserving existing vegetation, maintaining concrete washouts, covering soil stockpiles, and preventing sediment from exiting the project boundary. Equipment refueling and maintenance must be performed more than 100 feet away from any creeks or drainages, including Alameda Creek. Dust can be a nuisance and impact people, animals, and structures. In order to prevent dust from exiting the site, the contractor shall water all exposed surfaces, sweep streets and sidewalks with a wet vacuum sweeper, and cover all imported and exported loose materials. If you notice an activity that is creating a lot of dust, notify your supervisor and start dust control. Invasive plants can be a problem on construction sites. Equipment and materials, including PPE that comes from one site into another, can carry seeds or plant parts in the wheel threads or undercarriages. And only a few seeds can cause a very big problem, as plants can propagate quickly to take over a site. So bring equipment onto the site clean and free of soil, seeds, and plants. Use only certified weed-free erosion control materials and no plastic in fiber rolls or erosion control mats. Equipment maintenance is a big part of our environmental commitment. Inspect all equipment daily for leaks and repair immediately. Use drip pans or other devices to prevent leaks from reaching the soil. Remove contaminated soil immediately and dispose of properly. In order to maintain good air quality and reduce exhaust and greenhouse gas emissions, minimize truck trips, maintain proper tire inflation, and limit idling trucks to 5 minutes or less. Be careful when working with hazardous materials. Be sure to store them in their original labeled containers in a safe place, covered and on pallets or with secondary containment. Be sure to have fully stocked and clearly labeled spill kits and ensure they are within each work area to allow prompt response time. These kits should also contain dechlorination tablets for water pipeline discharges. If there is a spill, respond quickly with appropriate spill response equipment. For small spills, clean up contaminated soil and dispose of the hazardous material appropriately. Notify the environmental inspector or resident engineer of spills. For larger spills, notify, assess the safety of the area, if feasible, stop the source of contamination, commence containment, and work with the superintendent on a spill report. Some native mature trees may require fencing on the project. Be sure to install fencing around these trees spaced at least 20 feet from the resource. Prune and install it as needed, and if you have to access within the fenced-off area, it must be approved by a qualified arborist or biologist and SFPUC. The EI shall be present at each construction area during initial ground disturbing and vegetation removal activities. Do not commence work without approval from your supervisor or the superintendent to ensure that the appropriate surveys are complete. Biological surveys are required for special status amphibians, reptiles, nesting birds, bats, and wood rats. If sensitive species are discovered during surveys, a no disturbance buffer zone may be required, or the contractor may need to shift work to an adjacent area. A limited amount of follow-up surveys and on-site monitoring may be conducted during the construction period if nesting birds are observed on-site or within the no disturbance buffer zone. Do not approach or harass wildlife. Notify the resident engineer, EI, or ECM if animals are discovered and if they are injured or dead. Check underneath equipment daily for special status species and nesting birds, as well as underneath vehicles before that you move them. Species can crawl underneath equipment and vehicles. And the nesting season is generally February 15th to August 15th, and the contractor can install deterrents outside the vicinity of active nests to try to prevent nesting in the project area. Maintain wildlife exclusion fencing, including making repairs immediately and keeping gates shut when no one is actively traveling in and out to prevent special status species entry and project delays. The project also protects species that carry a higher level of protection from the state and federal government that we will need to stop work within 50 feet of and immediately notify the EI. First up, we have the Alameda whip snake, which is a federally and state threatened species. It is a slender black snake with 2 yellowish-orange stripes. They are seen during the daylight hours, typically between April to October, and get displaced by rain events when they are known to prey on frogs. Next up is the California tiger salamander, which is a state and federally threatened species. that is found migrating from burrow to ponds at night during the first few heavy rain events of the season. Otherwise, they reside in ponds or animal burrows. Make sure there is a monitor present when excavating in an area with burrows. Then there's the California red-legged frog, which is a federally listed species and a state species of special concern. These frogs are generally found in or nearby ponds or streams. They can be of various colors, from reddish-brown, olive, or greenish-gray, and they can disperse long distances, mostly during the wet season or during rain events. Then we have the foothill yellow-legged frog, which is a state endangered and federally threatened species. This species stays very close to moving streams and can be found in Alameda Creek. The golden eagle is protected by the Bald and Golden Eagle Protection Act. There are additional protections required for work within 1 mile of a known eagle nest. Notify the EI if there are any aerial work, helicopters, or cranes during the breeding season, which is December 15th to July 15th. The western pond turtle is a proposed threatened species. Its nest could be on site, which is dug into the ground with wet soil placed over top. And they're typically located within 100 meters of water in the uplands, but could be as far as 400 meters away. We also have other nesting birds and raptors that if we identify any active nest, we need to make sure that we stop work in the area and immediately notify the EI. Some of the behavioral cues that we look for are a bird carrying something, hearing a lot of calling, and repeat flights to an area. So let us know if you've observed any of this. The San Francisco dusky-footed woodrat is a California species of concern that creates large mitten nests that can be in the trees or on the ground. Lastly, we have refuge areas and burrows, which can be utilized by various species, including the Alameda whipsnake, California red-legged frog, California tiger salamander, and foothill yellow-legged frog. Everyone on this project, including you, plays a role in a successful environmental compliance program. We can achieve a great result by being conscious about protecting the environment while we work, complying with the environmental requirements, asking questions if a requirement is unclear. Thank you for your time and your commitment to environmental compliance. Congratulations, you have completed your training. Be sure to pick up your environmental training badge and sign the training sheet.